going to share two successful manifestation stories with you, both achieved through just pure visualization. But before I do that, I want to tell you that this is pretty common for me, that whenever I have a new business idea, this is how it arrives to me. I get an image popping up in my head, and I'm not quite sure, I cannot quite distinguish between the fact that it's just an image that is born in my physical self or my physical being's mind as a desire, or it's an image or a sign that I get from above, from my higher self. So I can't really tell the difference, but according to Abraham, it doesn't matter. So I get this image. Sometimes it just seriously comes out of nowhere, without any previous history or any connection to anything that I'm currently doing. I just get an image and I feel the desire for it, or I'm more like I feel curiosity towards it, and I always follow my curiosity. I am a very curious person, and whenever something sparks interest in me, I want to find out more. So this happened in both occasions, in both stories that I want to share with you. So story number one. Between the age of 19 and 21, I lived in London. That's where I actually learned English. And after going back to Budapest, I was kind of missing, that kind of vibe. Or also, I missed talking to people in English. So somehow I started surrounding myself by English speakers. I was becoming a part of an expat community in Budapest, and Brits, Americans, Australians, whatever. And I think this is just only a couple of weeks after I moved back that this image comes to my head, and I thought it was a desire, so I just translated it to a friend and said, hey, I want to go to an English language stand-up comedy show. You have to know that I've never been to any, not just an English, but any kind of comedy shows before. I've only seen it on TV, in American movies and stuff. There's this bar set up and there's someone with a mic on a stage and whatever. And I wanted to check it out, what kind of vibe it has. I wanted to see it in reality. But they told me it's non-existent in Budapest. Back in those days. This was again 150 years ago. Not just in English, but I think even in Hungarian it was non-existent. But the drive in me was so strong and the image was so strong that I said, it doesn't matter, we're gonna set it up then. So within 2 weeks I had the first English language stand-up comedy shows that I was organizing. I contacted some comedians in Germany. They flew over. I also found someone in Budapest, with a lot of help from friends and stuff. I found someone in Budapest who was a great MC to host the show. And then I just put the whole thing together, in a matter of days. And as I said, within 2 weeks from the idea born, within 2 weeks, the show was on. And we had pretty great responses. It was a nice audience. It was a fun evening. And then after that, I think I got into organizing probably one a month or something like that. And I think I was doing it for a year or two. So, this is not such a huge story about visualization, but still it kind of gives you a hint to how it works. I just got this image, and normally after I get the image, I start playing with it. Because I have fun with it. I'm enjoying it. It's not something that I'm doing consciously, okay, this is gonna be my way of planning something, whatever. No, I just get into it because I'm enjoying it. So I convert the image into a whole story where I see all the details, and I'm not seeing the details of how it's actually being put together, but I'm seeing more like, the final result. That's very important. You actually get to see the outcome, and then you kind of dive into it, and then you see yourself on the event in this case, and then you see yourself, talking to people, enjoying a nice evening, and all that stuff. And the second story was also, I think it was probably a couple of months after I was already settled back in Budapest, and I remember that there was an English language radio show which I got to hear about, through my expat friends, and it was hosted by two Hungarians whose English were like perfect, because I think they were born outside of Hungary. So basically, yeah, and I was listening to this radio show, and this desire was born in me, like, wow, it's so cool. Like, oh, I wish I had my own radio show. I wish I had my own radio show in English. Oh, that would be so much fun. And I had no previous experience. I mean, I could always speak. I was good in communication because I went to a lot of competition as a kid in reciting poetry and all that stuff, and also I think I was attending, but I know. So I was attending like classes or workshops on what was it called? Like an acting class kind of thing. But I never wanted to be an actor. But it was, it was helping me to improve public speaking and overall performance when it comes to communication. And so I had this image which soon became a desire in me, like, oh my god, but it wasn't like I said, oh, I would love to do this. It was more like just an idea to play with, like, oh, just imagine how great it could be. And I was just putting myself into this situation, and again, daydreaming, like seeing myself hosting my own English language radio show. And I think I was doing it for a couple of days, but at the same time I also thought to myself, or I knew it, that this would be impossible. So I was just taking it as a dream, as just something that made me feel good. But I had it also in the back of my head that this is not something I'm gonna make steps towards, because this is completely impossible. I mean, why? And in Hungary we had maybe 5,000 expats, or I don't know, some low numbers. And I mean, why would we have 2 English-speaking radio shows in small Hungary for such a small expat community? It doesn't make any sense. But I still kept playing with the idea. So it's kind of interesting that if you really think about it, I probably had resistance to it. And what we know from Abraham, if you have resistance, you don't allow it to happen. So I don't know why, but this is what happened. I think a couple of months later, I get a call from a British friend of mine who was living in Budapest at the time. And he said, this guy is an aristocrat, like he speaks a very posh, perfect, beautiful British English. And he calls me, he says, listen, I get a call from a guy who said they are setting up a new radio station, and they thought to have an English language radio show, and they asked me to be the host of it. But I told them I don't want to do it on my own. I'd love to have a partner to do it with. And I told them I'd love you to be that person. So they said, okay. So I'm just calling you to ask, how do you feel about it? Would you be up for it? So you can imagine my initial shock. You can imagine that I was just standing there, my jaw dropped, and I was like, yeah, of course I would love to be there. I would love to do it with you. So, and then the whole thing happened, and we were doing it for a couple of months or maybe a year. I'm not quite sure. I wasn't good at it or amazing, whatever, but I was having fun. I was enjoying it, and I think these are very inspirational stories that I wanted to share with you. So, and it also makes me think, like, how is it possible that it got together when at the back of my head, I kind of had, or back of my mind, I had resistance towards the idea. maybe after a while, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, that maybe after a while I kind of let the idea go, and with that the whole resistance also disappeared. I'm not 100% sure. But all in all, I think the conclusion is, or what I think really matters when visualizing something, is to make sure that you put yourself in your daydream. You see yourself there, you feel yourself there, you feel your surrounding there. And the more you get into it, the deeper you get into it, the more positive emotions it will allow you to feel. And that's really huge. That's very, very powerful in manifestation, you know, when you actually feel that thing, you know, that desire already happening, when you feel that it's already present. So it's not like just something that, you know, it's far away in the future, but you already see yourself in that particular situation. You see, feel, smell, touch, whatever, your whole surrounding. I think that's the key, or that has always been the key for me. So give it a try.